Good evening and welcome to the virtual public hearing for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS. My name is Tim Kelly and I'm a member of the VDOT Hampton Roads District Communication Team and the moderator for tonight's session. We're glad that you took time out to join us this evening to learn about this important study, which covers portions of the cities of Chesapeake, Suffolk, and Portsmouth. As this is a virtual meeting, we know that the virtual world can present challenges from time to time, and we thank everyone in advance for their patience. This meeting is being recorded and will be posted on the project website as a YouTube link. We'll begin tonight's meeting with an introduction of the study team, followed by a video presentation, and then a question and answer period. This project is funded by HR TAC, the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. HR TAC funds the highest priority projects from the Hampton Roads Transportation Funds that provides new capacity for congestion relief. HRTPO, the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, reviews and forecasts conditions and plans and prioritizes for future improvements to transportation and Hampton roads. Joining us tonight are members of the project team, which include VDOT and Federal Highway Administration representatives from various areas to help answer questions during the session. This group includes Andrew Pike, VDOT NEPA Project Manager, Jim Ponicello, VDOT Air and Noise Program Manager, Ryan Crisp, VDOT Land Acquisition and Property Management Manager, Queen Crittenden, VDOT Civil Rights Manager, Ross Hudnall, VDOT Noise Abatement Coordinator, James Ellis with VDOT Major Projects, and John Simpkins, Planning, Environment, Realty, and Freight Team Leader with the FHWA Virginia Division. I'd like to thank everyone for being a part of tonight's meeting. I'd like to take a moment to explain why and how VDOT conducts a public hearing. A public hearing has four essential purposes. First, to inform the public on the status of the planning of the study, to share the recommendations based on current information. Second, to describe the study so that those attending can determine if the project will affect their lives and property. Third, to provide the public an opportunity to see information and express their views at this stage in the planning process when flexibility to respond to comments still exists. And lastly, this hearing is also used to develop a record of public views and participation to accompany recommendations for subsequent decisions. This virtual public hearing is being held in compliance with state laws. A recorded version of the hearing will be made available for the official record. Now, tonight you'll see all the information we would typically present during an in-person meeting, including project information, estimated schedule and cost, the process for submitting comments, and key contacts. You can also find this information on the project website at bowershillinterchange.com. And we also want to note that if for some reason you're accidentally disconnected from the virtual meeting, please attempt to rejoin the same way you joined to kick off your participation. Now, there are a variety of ways to provide any questions or comments on the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study, DEIS. Now, while we will use the Q&A box in WebEx tonight, you can make your comments via phone this evening. You can provide them online, mail a comment form to the address on the screen, or email comments to bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov, or call 804-786-2360. Now, additionally, feel free to print the online comment form and mail to the address on the screen by September the 11th. Comments must be received or postmarked by September 11th to be considered part of the official public hearing record. The comment form can be found, again, at the project website. We do ask if you submit your comment online, you also take a moment to complete our demographic survey found on the public hearing page at vdotmeeting.com/BowersHill. This is a voluntary survey and provides very important data to our civil rights and project team while helping us ensure that we're reaching all communities within our district for this and future projects. Before we play the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study presentation, I wanted to cover how attendees tonight can ask questions upon conclusion of the video. Now, those joining online, please use the Q&A feature to submit any questions. On the desktop version of WebEx, you can find the Q&A box in the bottom right of your screen. Now, if you don't see the Q&A box, just please raise your hand to ask questions. Questions will be taken at the end of the presentation, but feel free to submit comments and questions throughout the meeting. For those joining on the phone, you'll need to hit *3 to raise your hand virtually if you'd like to make a comment or have a question. At the end of the presentation, the moderator will ask you to unmute yourself by hitting *6, at which time you can ask your question. Now let's start the presentation video, which lays out where we are in the study process.
Welcome to the public hearing for the Draft Environmental Impact Statement, or DEIS, for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. The Virginia Department of Transportation, or VDOT, is holding this hearing to provide information and gather public comment on the DEIS for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. The DEIS describes the purpose and need for the proposed improvements, alternatives evaluated, and agency and public coordination, in addition to documenting the potential impacts of the proposed improvements. Comments received on the DEIS will inform the development of the final EIS and Record of Decision, or ROD, which will allow the project to advance to the next phase of project development. The Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study covers the junction of I-664, I-64, I-264, U.S. Route 13, U.S. Route 58, U.S. Route 460, and Virginia Route 191 Jolliffe Road, as well as 7 miles of I-664 to near College Drive, Exit 8A. You can view previous presentations and materials on the study website at www.bowershillinterchange.com. VDOT has developed this presentation to provide information and gather public comment on the DEIS for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. VDOT will share ways the public can provide input on the DEIS and provide next steps for the study. In April 2019, the Federal Highway Administration, or FHWA, issued the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study Environmental Assessment, or EA, which evaluated improvements at the Bowers Hill Interchange. In May 2020, the study area was expanded to incorporate an additional 7 miles north along I-664 to near the College Drive interchange in Suffolk. Based on this change, this new study was initiated in the form of an Environmental Impact Statement, or EIS. In fall and winter 2020, VDOT conducted early planning activities. These activities included agency and public outreach, field investigations, and preliminary concept development. The purpose and need sets the goals for the study and serves as the primary criteria in the alternative screening process. The development of the purpose and need for the study was informed by nearly 1,300 responses to a public survey conducted in September and October 2020, as well as input from federal, state, regional, and local agencies. In December 2020, the purpose and need was finalized. In February through March 2021, VDOT held a citizen comment opportunity to present the preliminary range of alternative concepts based on the purpose and need. Public comments obtained during that review and input from the agencies involved in the study led to the identification of the range of alternatives to be carried forward in the study. In April 2022, VDOT held a public hearing to share its recommended preferred alternative and to garner public input. The Commonwealth Transportation Board endorsed the preferred alternative in October 2022. Today's presentation will cover where we are currently presenting the Draft Environmental Impact Statement. After the public hearing, VDOT will refine the preferred alternative as appropriate and document all comments in the final EIS, which is expected to be released in 2023. Following the final EIS, it is anticipated that FHWA will issue a Record of Decision, which will identify the selected alternative and conclude the study. The purpose and need identified for the study are to reduce congestion, improve travel reliability, and provide additional travel choice within the study area. Preliminary concepts were considered and were first presented during the citizen comment opportunity in February through March 2021. Only those preliminary concepts meeting all elements of the purpose and need were retained for further analysis in the DEIS. Therefore, the following preliminary concepts were not carried forward because they did not meet the purpose and need: general purpose lane improvements, collector distributor or CD lanes, transportation systems management, transportation demand management or TSM/TDM improvements, and transit-only improvements. The no-build and to-build alternatives, alternatives C and D, were carried forward for analysis in the DEIS. Alternative C would add 1 managed lane and 1 part-time drivable shoulder as part of the managed lane system in each direction, including improvements to the Bowers Hill and other interchanges in the corridor. The part-time drivable shoulder would utilize the paved inside shoulders as drivable lanes during certain times of the day as a congestion relief strategy. Alternative D would add 2 managed lanes in each direction of I-664, including improvements to the Bowers Hill and other interchanges in the corridor. Alternatives C and D were carried forward for detailed analysis because they meet the study's purpose and need. The preferred alternative is Alternative C, which would add 1 managed lane and 1 part-time drivable shoulder in each direction of I-664, along with improvements at Bowers Hill and other interchanges along I-664 in the study area. The details for how these interchanges would be improved are to be determined during more detailed phases of design after the conclusion of the NEPA study. Alternative C best meets the purpose and need for the study while balancing costs and impacts. VDOT recommended Alternative C as the preferred alternative, and the Commonwealth Transportation Board, or CTB, endorsed Alternative C as the preferred alternative in October 2022. A final EIS and record of decision will be prepared to document any refinements to the preferred alternative and respond to substantive comments received on the DEIS. Issuance of the record of decision will allow the project to advance to the next phase of project development. The DEIS documents analysis of potential social, economic, cultural, and natural environmental impacts that could result from the alternatives evaluated. Illustrative planning level designs have been developed as part of the DEIS to support the impact and cost estimates. A planning level limit of disturbance or footprint was established for the alternatives carried forward based on preliminary engineering to assess a worst-case scenario for impacts. An impact analysis was conducted to assess where the proposed improvements may affect surrounding properties and resources like wetlands. Following an FHWA NEPA decision, VDOT would be able to advance with more detailed design phases. During these detailed phases of design, which would include permitting, additional engineering refinements could be made to avoid or reduce impacts to resources and private properties to the greatest extent practicable. It is important to note that the impacts shown are a worst-case scenario and will be revisited and refined during the final design and permitting. The Hampton Roads Express Lanes, or HREL network, consists of multiple segments of express lanes that will provide safe and reliable travel options and relieve congestion in the region. Expanding along I-64 from Bowers Hill and Chesapeake to past Denby Boulevard and Newport News, the network is estimated to be completed as early as 2028. The Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study is in the study phase and is not part of the current HREL network. If you would like to provide input on the DEIS or supporting technical documents, you can complete a comment form at the public hearing or on the study's website at bowershillinterchange.com. You can also mail your comments to Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study at 11827 Cannon Boulevard, Suite 402, Newport News, Virginia 23606. Email your comments to bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov using the subject line Bowers Hill Interchange or call 804-786-2360. Comments must be submitted or postmarked by September 11, 2023. Stay updated on the study progress by visiting the study website at www.bowershillinterchange.com and by signing up for the e-newsletter. Future public comment opportunities will be shared on the study website and through our e-newsletter. Thank you for your interest in this important study.
That concludes the video presentation, and we'll now start the question and answer portion of tonight's meeting. I would like to note that if anyone joined the video late, that will be posted, or actually it already is posted on the project website, but tonight's presentation in its entirety will be posted there very shortly once we get it up on YouTube. Now, as previously noted, the Q&A box will be open for questions for those who are viewing from a computer or mobile device. There's not a chat box, so we're only using the Q&A box in WebEx. For those joining on the desktop version, you can find that Q&A box in the bottom right-hand portion of your screen. And if for some reason it is not there, please just raise your hand virtually and we'll recognize your call there. Again, for those on the phone, you do need to hit *3 to raise your hand if you'd like to make a comment or have a question. We'll ask you to unmute yourself by hitting *6, at which time you can ask your question. Please make sure your message is relevant to the project Please be polite as all questions will be read aloud and are included in the official public hearing transcript. Any individual who does not abide by our ground rules or who submits anything inappropriate will be asked to leave or will be manually disconnected from the meeting. We'll now open it up for questions. We have a question from Alicia in the chat in the Q&A box. She says, "Good evening to all. Is there a plan to include tolls on any of these expansions?" Thank you. Andrew?
Yes, thanks, Alicia. This is Andrew Pike. I'm the NEPA project manager for the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. So the two alternatives that are documented in the draft EIS, Alternative C, the addition of one managed lane and a part-time drivable shoulder, and then Alternative D, the addition of two managed lanes. Both of those managed lanes in both of the alternatives would be a future part of the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network. So those managed lanes would be subject to tolls in the future. The same number of general purpose lanes that are in the corridor today, 2 lanes in each direction, would remain free and open to the traveling public. And travelers in the corridor would have the option then to choose to use the tolled managed lanes.
Thank you, Andrew. We have another question from Jeff. Jeff asks, where will the toll funding go?
Thanks, Jeff. Yeah, so the tolling in this corridor and for the entire Hampton Roads Express Lanes network is governed by a master tolling agreement between Virginia's Commonwealth Transportation Board, VDOT, and then the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. So that document governs how toll revenues in the region are spent. And this study, the NEPA study, does not get into that level of detail in terms of where the funding goes, instead relies on that master tolling agreement to dictate how revenues are used.
Thank you, Andrew. Another question from Vic. Would toll lanes be non-toll at any time?
Good question. Yes, so the toll lanes are subject to that master tolling agreement. So the assumption is that the managed lanes would be tolled in accordance with that agreement. And I'm not aware of any untolled portions of the express lanes network when it is in full operation. But the general purpose lanes, as stated, would continue to remain free and open.
Thank you, Andrew. Take a second to remind anybody who's calling in on the phone tonight and you'd like to ask a question there. Use *3 to raise your hand, and then once recognized, you can use *6 to unmute. And of course, we also have the Q&A box that's open, and we have another question there, and that's from Alicia, who asks, are you working with the Elizabeth River projects to determine your areas for these projects?
So this is if you're referring to the Elizabeth River tolls that are on a separate facility, then these things are not related. This project would be part of the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network and tolled in accordance with the master tolling agreement. That's not related to the Elizabeth River tolling that is in place today. The study area for this project was determined in collaboration and coordination with the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization, and then the Hampton Roads Transportation Accountability Commission. So that's set the study area along I-664 from the Bowers Hill interchange to just north of College Drive on I-664.
Thank you. Sterling asks, what guarantees do we have to keep toll fees to a reasonable value? For example, ERNT can raise rates every year. Every time the state is short funds from the highway fund is reduced.
Sure, yes. So the Elizabeth River Tolls is a separate entity that's run by a private concessionaire. It's a P3 agreement. So this would not be subject to that agreement. This would fall into that master tolling agreement. that would govern the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network, and the tolls are to be set dynamically to allow for traffic to move through the managed lanes as a congestion relief strategy. So it is a dynamic toll, but that's governed by the master tolling agreement and not governed by what we are documenting in the environmental impact statement.
And we have a question from Jeff. Jeff asks, what kind of NEPA conflicts have you uncovered?
So in the NEPA document, Chapter 3 in particular discusses the affected environment and environmental consequences. We shared on the screen in the video presentation the potential impacts to resources within our preliminary planning level limits of disturbance. So what we are trying to do in NEPA for this study is to document a worst case impact scenario so that those impact tables that we've shown document the potential impacts to resources within the project area. So whether that be private property, wetlands, any of the resources that were listed in that table, those are the resources that have been considered and documented in the environmental impact statement.
Thank you, Andrew. And Jeff says thank you. He'll check that out. So Jeff, thank you very much for your participation tonight. I'd like to note while we have a quick brief pause just for wait for any other questions to pop in. If you do not wish to ask your question this evening, we do invite you to join us tomorrow evening, Wednesday, August the 30th. That'll be at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office for the in-person public hearing from 5 to 7 p.m. The district office is located at 7511 Burbage Drive in Suffolk. The project team members will be present, as well as a court reporter to collect your official comments. So again, we will be in person tomorrow night here at the district office from 5 until 7 p.m. And there's the information on the screen if anybody needed to jot down the address for that. But again, tomorrow night, 5 to 7, VDOT Hampton Roads District Office, the in-person public hearing. So if you have additional questions or would like to visit with us tomorrow night, we'll be happy to have you here and address the questions as best we can during the public hearing. And I'll also note again, you can submit questions in addition to anybody submitting questions tonight. You can use the online survey or email bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov. Additionally, you can print the online comment form and mail it to the address you see there on the screen in Newport News by September the 11th. Comments must be received or postmarked again by September 11th to be considered part of the official public hearing record. The comment form can be found on the project website. Back up a few pages here and come back to the Q&A box here. So Alicia has a question. Just to clarify, will the actual improvement start in 2028 or next year?
Good question, Alicia. So as documented in the draft environmental impact statement, the current construction start year is 2035, and that is based on what is in the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization's long-range transportation plan. And that document also has the earliest opening date for the project as 2038. So 2035 is the earliest construction date that's currently documented.
Thank you, Andrew. And again, thank you, Alicia, for your question. Keep an eye on the Q&A box as well as the call box to see if anyone else has a question to provide to us tonight. And again, reminding everyone tomorrow night, we will have an in-person public hearing here at the VDOT District Office in Suffolk, 7511 Burbage Drive from 5 until 7 p.m. If anybody would like to attend that in person, be happy to have you in attendance. Again, and note the ways that people can provide comments. In addition to the virtual public hearing this evening and the in-person public hearing tomorrow night, plenty of opportunity out there. And again, those comments must be submitted or postmarked by September the 11th. We do have a question on the phone. And that number it's a phone number ending in 8282. If you could please unmute yourself and ask your question. A caller on the line?
Oh, yes, thank you.
Yes,
Hey, just a question. So with the impact study of looking at the drivable shoulder and a managed lane, where are they looking at actually putting that on this stretch on 664?
Yes, thank you for the question. Yeah, so in the corridor, it's approximately a 7-mile corridor from Bowers Hill to just north of College Drive. For most of the corridor, widening is assumed to occur to the inside. The one constraint that exists in the corridor that prevents assuming widening to the inside is where an existing rail line is. So for about 1.3 miles from in the northern part of the corridor, there's existing rail line within the median. So we've assumed widening to the outside in that stretch.
Okay, thank you, Andrew. A question from Sterling. Is the toll rate dynamic based on time of transit? Do we know what kind of delays the area will see during the construction and way of time? And has any consideration been given to widening the Monitor Merrimack Memorial Bridge Tunnel to aid congestion there? So a couple different questions, Andrew. If you want to take them one at a time, feel free. Again, the first one is the toll rate dynamic based on time of transit?
So as stated before, so there's a master tolling agreement that will govern the operations and the toll rate for the Hampton Roads Express Lanes network, which will be dynamic. So it means it will vary in price to reflect changing conditions based on congestion. And that's meant to ensure that a minimum operating speed is maintained in the managed lanes.
Sterling's second question was, do we know what kind of delays the area will see during the construction in way of time?
At this point, we have not gone to that level of detail to determine the types of delays because we have not yet advanced to detailed or final design, at which point we would have an understanding of the means and methods by which construction would occur.
And the final question from Sterling, has any consideration been given to widening the Monitor Merrimack Memorial Bridge Tunnel to aid congestion there?
Yeah, so that, as you know, that's not part of this study. I would point to the Hampton Roads Transportation Planning Organization's long-range plan for any improvements to the Monitor Merrimack Bridge Tunnel, and I do not believe there are any expansion plans in that long-range plan at this time.
And we have a caller with a question. Bruce, if you could go ahead and unmute using *6 and ask your question, please. Thank you.
Yes. Is the panel aware of the fact that the Virginia Port Authority is planning in the background and working with the city of Chesapeake to open up 2 cross-dock trucking facilities in the Bowers Hill area that would be using all of those ramps off of that interchange to the tune of anywhere, because we can't get a straight number out of them, anywhere from 800 to 2,000 trucks a day?
Yes, yeah, thank you, Bruce. We have heard from probably some of your neighbors in that area about the rezoning that the city of Chesapeake is considering, as well as a traffic signal that the city of Chesapeake is considering installing in the area on one of the roads that they maintain. So we are aware of that, and we invite you to submit formal comments as part of this study so that we can record those and provide a response officially as part of the record. But we are aware of that, and VDOT does not have an approval role in rezoning of city property.
Well, approval's not what I'm looking for in a rezoning. What I'm concerned with is that this information was not part of the initial gathering of information that impacts based on your own criteria about reducing congestion. You're talking about managed lanes that trucks will not be using, but you're going to add to this whole intersection, one of the biggest intersections in the whole area. You're going to be adding trucks in there coming off of all of those intersections. And if I was a truck driver coming from there, I'd be getting off at 13, which is going to just cause a ton of traffic there. That's the same exit right after the Suffolk exit. You put that many trucks on the road today, it's going to really cause a congestion problem. And there ought to be some design that ought to be accounted for in the design of these alternates.
Yeah, appreciate the comment. Yeah, so where we are within the environmental process is a preliminary planning level design, and that's really meant to document the largest physical footprint to inform a worst case impact scenario. There will be the opportunity for more refined design as the project advances. And I know that the Hampton Roads District staff is aware of this as well.
The other question I had was I didn't see anything on here that actually indicates, all I saw was managed lanes and that type, but I didn't see anything where how the current ramps would be changed for these alternatives. Where is that information?
Sure, yeah, good question. So they're at both the study website, bowershillinterchange.com, as well as the VDOT meeting.com/Bowershill. Both websites have a couple resources that you can use to see that information. One, there's an online mapping tool that shows the preliminary planning level design. So it shows not only where the managed lanes would be constructed on the main line of I-664, but also shows improvements to ramps and interchanges, in particular the Bowers Hill interchange. So there's that online mapping tool that's available. And then there are also plan sheets, roll plans that have that same level of detail for each of the build alternatives that would show you what potential improvements look like at interchanges on the corridor.
And all that's on the website.
Yes, sir.
All right, well, I'll have to dig deeper because I haven't been able to find it. All I've been able to see is some general information about one managed lane or two managed lanes and nothing about any of the existing ramps and how they would change. But I will dive into it a little bit deeper. Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you. Yeah, feel free to reach out if you have questions after reviewing that information.
All right, thank you.
And thank you, Andrew and Bruce. And Bruce had a question in the Q&A box, which I believe has already been addressed with regard to the cross-dock facility that he was referencing. So I'll go to Alicia now, who has a question. Piggybacking on the earlier caller's question, can you expand on the rail lines? Will this area be included in expansion of the ongoing Tide Light Rail, if applicable?
Yes, Alicia, yes. So the rail in this corridor is existing freight rail. It's the Commonwealth Rail Line. It's a short line freight rail. So it does not at this time include any non-freight rail traffic.
Thank you. And again, if anybody would have a question who's joining us tonight for the virtual public hearing, feel free to use the Q&A box. Or again, if you'd like to ask your question audibly, just hit *3 to raise your hand. We'll recognize you. And then if you could hit *6 at that point, then you'll be able to ask the question of our panel tonight. And while we have a second, again, I'll remind everyone, again, in addition to the comments received this evening and at tomorrow's in-person public hearing to be held at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office at 7511 Burbage Drive in Suffolk, you can also provide your comments online at bowershillinterchange.com. You can mail comments to Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study at 11827 Cannon Boulevard, Suite 402. That's Newport News, Virginia 23606. You can also email comments to bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov or call 786-2360. And that information is displayed on your screen at present if anybody wanted to jot any of that information down. Or again, you can visit the project website at bowershillinterchange.com at any time for updates of the study or to sign up for the study newsletter or contact VDOT. Again, plenty of information there as referenced earlier. Again, those comments for this particular phase of the study must be submitted or postmarked by September 11th of this year. And while we have a second again, I want to ask you if you if you feel free to submit your comment online, and you can certainly fill out our demographic survey, which is available there. It's very important. It's a voluntary survey, and again, provides information to our civil rights and project team, which help us ensure that we're reaching all communities within our district for this and future projects. And that survey, again, can be found at vdotmeeting.com/BowersHill. That URL is at the bottom of the screen there. If you'd like to visit that website to provide your comments, that opportunity is there. And Alicia noted in the Q&A box, thank you, I figured, but I wanted to make sure. Alicia, thank you for your question and your comment as well. And as referenced earlier, we have the in-person public hearing tomorrow night here at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office from 5 until 7 p.m. That address again, 7511 Burbage Drive in Suffolk. And for anyone joining us this evening, again, the Q&A box is open. We'll look for those questions that may pop up there, or you can also submit them via phone, again, using *3 to raise your hand, then *6 to unmute as when you're prompted. See no hands raised or anything in the Q&A box at the moment. We'll just give it just a couple more minutes to make sure if we have any additional questions from anyone joining us this evening. I want to give you plenty of opportunity to ask those questions tonight. And since we have a second, I'll mention again, and I'd like to get this out there again, the in-person public hearing, 5 to 7 p.m. tomorrow night at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office located in Suffolk. And also, again, noting the various ways that you can provide comments outside of either the virtual or the in-person public hearing. Best resource, again, you go online at bowershillinterchange.com. You certainly can submit your comments there. You can also mail the comments again to the address on the screen. Email comments to bowershill@vdot.virginia.gov or call 804-786-2360. Comments must be submitted or postmarked by September 11th. Of this year. Remind everyone again, if you're making comments online, also to complete the demographic information that we're asking that you could voluntarily provide there. Provides information to our civil rights and project team while helping us ensure that we're all reaching all communities, I should say, within our district for this and future projects. And for a complete history on the study, visit bowershillinterchange.com. And if you haven't already, we encourage you to sign up for study updates at the project website to stay in the loop with other VDOT projects. We also would invite you to visit VDOT Hampton Roads on Facebook, Twitter, and Nextdoor, and sign up to receive weekly lane closures as well to stay up to date on information there. And again, for the newsletter, visit bowershillinterchange.com. There's a quick way to sign up. You just provide your email address and we can get you on that list there. And anytime a newsletter goes out, you'll be receiving that as soon as that happens. We'll look to do a last call for anyone who's joining us tonight in the virtual public meeting for questions. And you have the opportunity in the Q&A box to provide that question there. Or if you'd like to provide a question verbally, you can also hit *3 to raise your hand. Once recognized, you would need to hit *6 to be recognized, and then you can proceed with your question. Give it just another minute or so and make sure that we want to give everyone an opportunity tonight to provide those questions or comments as they'd like to. And once again, I want to take the opportunity to remind everyone of the in-person public hearing tomorrow night, 5 to 7 p.m. at the VDOT Hampton Roads District Office, located at 7511 Burbage Drive in Suffolk. Again, last call for questions. Just making sure if we have anyone else that would like to participate in that capacity this evening. And again, as we have displayed on the screen, again, please visit bowershillinterchange.com for information, historical information, I should say, on the study. A lot of great information can be found there if you wanted to research or find out kind of what's been happening to date. And also invite you to sign up for the newsletter there. Just provide your email address and we can get that to you when that goes out as soon as it does. Okay, again, final call for questions tonight, either via phone or via the Q&A box. Don't see anyone in there right now, so we appreciate your interest in the Bowers Hill Interchange Improvement Study. Thank you for joining us. We will again note that if you want to share your comments, you have through September 11th of this year. You can do so at the project website, or you can also visit vdotmeeting.com/BowersHill, which is where you can find questionnaire right there that you can submit, and also the demographic information. You can provide that as well through that portal. So opportunity right there. And again, I thank everyone for joining us. Appreciate your participation. Great discussion. And then again, invite you tomorrow night to the in-person meeting here at the district office in Northern Suffolk, 7511 Burbage Drive. That will be from 5 until 7 p.m. tomorrow night. One final check of the Q&A box, or anyone wanting to make a verbal question. I do not see anyone there. So again, at this time, we will formally adjourn the meeting. I thank everyone for joining us and participating in the process and providing your comments and questions. With that, I'll say good evening. Thank you.